So one of the questions that comes up a lot when trying to make diagrams in Illustrator is how to use a quote-unquote paint bucket type tool like you would in Photoshop, because Illustrator doesn't exactly have a paint bucket tool, but it kind of actually does, and it's called the Live Paint tool. And here is a quick intro for how to work with that. Now, the way that you do this is you can either import a geometry, like from Rhino, make 2D, or you can just draw it yourself. And it works a lot like the paint bucket tool does, where you have some kind of closed shape and you can create a fill. Except for, unlike the paint bucket tool in Photoshop, it's not destructive in Illustrator, it's smart. And the way that you do this, you need to start with some sort of shape, right? So I'm going to draw a shape, and then I'm going to hit X, I'm going to draw another shape. I think I caught some thing. All right, cool, there we go. Stop that. So now I've got these two shapes, and they're kind of weird, but that's fine for the purposes of this demonstration, because that one's closed and that one's closed, and that's good enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, first I'm going to select everything, Control A or Command A, and I'm going to say Object, and I'm going to say Live Paint, and that's not going to work. And why isn't it going to work? I don't know. Let's see, Live Paint. Okay, cool. Now it's let me do it. So I select everything and I say Live Paint, and it's going to make what's called a Live Paint group. And what I can do now is I can go ahead and select some sort of bulk editing thing, where if I go ahead and change the color of all of these, it's going to change all the colors at once as a group, which is helpful if you want to do it all at one time, but chances are you're not going to want all of these to be the same color. And that's okay. So I'm just going to undo that color change. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click outside of the group that I just made, because when you first make the Live Paint group, whatever you change in your settings down here are going to be global changes. But if you want to just do changes in individual areas, then what you do is you activate the Live Paint tool after making the Live Paint group. So after making the Live Paint group, I can come down here to the Live Paint bucket, and now I've got a paint bucket. So I need to come down here and select what I want my fill to be, and I'll say I want this, and then maybe I want to use some different color here for that and that. And now this is much more like the regular paint bucket tool in Photoshop. Now, one of the things that happens with Live Paint is that you do lose a lot of the nice things that make Illustrator great. Because when everything is in a Live Paint group, and you'll notice this content is all grouped, then you stop being able to do things like change the transparency of the fill layers or change the strokes to dashed. But there's an easy way around this. And the way to do that is to click on this and then go to Object and then Live Paint, and you're going to expand this, not release it, expand it. And what that'll do is it breaks the fill layers. Actually, first of all, what that will do is that we'll break the fill layers and the stroke layers into individual objects, but it's still stuck in the group. So after you expand it, just right click it and then say ungroup. And now you'll be able to click on individual strokes and fills and change it that way. So what if I wanted to do that, then what I can do is I can click on it, and then I can go to my stroke menu, and I can change the weight of the stroke around that shape, right? Or I can convert it to a dash line, or I can use my direct selection tool to be more precise if I want to select the fill layer. And then I can do things that I couldn't normally do with the paint bucket tool, and I can change the properties of the fill layer to things like something that's semi-transparent. And you can't do that until you release it from the Live Paint group. And the other thing that's really nice is if I grab this, now I can separate the fill layer from the stroke also, which is really handy. Or I can do things like select this and enable my fill layer to be by opening. If you don't usually use the appearance toolbar, this is a great place to start using it, because now I can edit the properties of my individual fill thing by breaking it into the stroke, which I can do using the direct selection tool or the appearance panel, or editing the fill here and changing the opacity of the fill this way And the reason that this is broken up into two different sections is you'll notice that when I did it before and I changed the opacity of the entire object, it also changed the opacity of the line around it. By using the appearance panel, I can change the opacity of just the fill or just the stroke around it. So maybe I want to change the opacity of just the fill to, like, I don't know, whatever that was, and leave the opacity of the stroke the same. Or I can edit the stroke a little bit this way by opening the stroke panel and changing that back from a dashed line and changing this back to, I don't know, something like that. Or I have even more options with the appearance panel where I can come down here into the fill layer, right? And then I can do something like go to my swatches library and go to patterns and go to basic graphics and dots, and I can open my swatch panel here and get all these dots, and then I could add a fill layer of dots instead of solid color. And then if I wanted to add another fill layer behind that, just if I wanted a dotted background, I can do what I normally do in a layers panel and click plus, and then in this fill panel, maybe I'll just have that behind it. And that's how you can use Live Paint tool and then break up your shapes that you made using the Live Paint tool and then modify them in ways that you can't normally modify them using the Live Paint tool to make all sorts of cool graphic stuff. And that is my crash course on diagrams in Illustrator.